Hello.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Right.
You okay?
Okay, you okay?
Oh my
Yeah.
God, what a day. I'm so sorry. I had a brand bit of content that was meant to go up at 5:30, and I it just like slipped my mind, and I was just like, quick, get it up, get it up. So I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Thanks so much for your patience.
No, don't worry. Well, I think, yeah, I get the impression you've had a busy day.
Yeah, but
You've had a,
it's one of those days where I think it's been a really long day, but it's been a good day. But I still kick myself because I was like, if I had just blocked it out hourly, I probably would have been a bit more efficient.
yeah, I know. Oh, well, listen, look, wait, is this the last thing today?
Yeah, I've just got a few little bits to tidy up, but it's all good. But honestly, thank you so much for coming on. I put on Instagram. I have started recording, by the way. I hope you don't mind. I can edit it. I just find that I have like the best chats when we're off air.
Yeah, when no one knows they're being recorded.
And so many people ask loads of questions about burnout, so I knew it was a good one. You look really well, by the way.
Thank you. Well, I did have my hair cut yesterday. So I'm feeling so, when you just feel so good. It'd been 5 or 6 months or something mad like that. Yeah. So I just feel great. Like,
Yeah, I had mine coloured, but I'm still waiting on the cut. I go to different. I've got a few friends at hairdressers, and that is just a recipe for disaster. Because who do you go to? So I've worked out that I go to one for colour and one for cut.
well, you've got it made. You got it sorted.
I'm just like,
No, it's no, you look really, really good, really well, and it's just, yeah, it is so nice to see you because I haven't seen you in a while, and I know we've been chatting, and and it's just been.
yeah,
I really do want to apologise for not intentionally messing you around, but being, all and then no, and then, but it's totally still on my list. It's just I've never got to it.
yeah. No,
Um,
honestly, don't worry at all. It's just been mad for everyone, hasn't it?
Yeah, but it's still there, and I still want to do it. And it might be that we do something different in the sense that just while I'm getting myself up to speed, you could do something very simple. I don't know,
Yeah, of
but
course.
we can
Um,
take that off.
but I think this leads us on to the topic for today, doesn't it? Nicely about how busy we both have been. Um,
Madness.
Burnout.
Yeah.
Have you been burnt out, or have you kind of been able to manage it?
Recently, no. I mean, I have in the past, and I know the warning signs, and it's really linked to relative energy deficiency. Obviously, the experience of hypothalamic amenorrhea, because it's another, defining burnout is actually very tricky, and it's a really interesting one to define.
Yeah, because it's
Um,
for everyone, right? Like, where I might feel burnt out in a way that someone else might not be, right?
yeah, well, I mean, burnout is used very loosely in society to refer to any form of chronic fatigue in the general population. And we can also talk about burnout as a symptom of something like relative energy deficiency in nutrition and dietetics, or overtraining or red S in the sporting world, or adrenal dysfunction in the functional medical community. So it's
Yeah.
really tricky when because it's not actually classified as a medical condition.
Okay.
So that makes it hard,
Yeah, but
because
as well, am I right in thinking that? Sorry, I'm just getting some of the questions up that people.
yeah, no worries.
Am I right as well in thinking that burnout has different symptoms that could mean something else? So, for example, like IBS, or like HA, or something like that. That actually people don't
Mm.
cure the burnout as such; they cure the symptom of burnout.
So I guess I can exactly see where you're sort of coming at with that. And yes, I think you're correct in what you're saying. I think understanding what burnout actually is really important, because it's one consequence of chronic stress. And some of those things that you're talking about there, like the IBS and HA, they're also, things that can happen to the body. They're hormonal situations or physiological syndromes that can happen also as a result of overuse of our stress response, overuse of our HPA axis over and over again without adequate recovery. And that's a massive thing because, you know, our acute stress response, say if you walked out into the road and a car came around the corner and you get a fright and adrenaline pumps out within milliseconds, you know, all of this glucose goes into the bloodstream, goes to the muscles, you move out of the way really quickly, and then you're like, whoa, phew. And that recovery is really important. And when we're under chronic stress, like those prolonged cycles of repeated stress that we're experiencing because we're waking up to an alarm clock and then we're having thousands of emails we've got to answer and we've missed a train or whatever, we're not getting this adequate recovery. And there's actually nothing wrong with an acute stress response. It's actually healthy to us, it protects us. But the modern world that we're living in isn't allowing, again, that recovery, and that's causing issues with our adrenal system, with our reproductive system, with our digestive system, do you see what I mean? And burnout is just that chronic fatigue-like picture, which the medical world doesn't really like to use. It's a little bit tricky to sort of unpick what actually is happening. But
I've just completely lost what I was going to say.
Sorry,
No, it's not you. It was me, and I thought, oh my god, ask about that. It's gone. Don't worry. Sorry.
It'll come back in a minute.
Yeah.
Interrupt me.
You know when you're like, oh, on that point, and and are you seeing in pandemics and even working from home, are you seeing more clients suffering from burnout?
Yes and no. I mean, I always see women suffering from this because this is really what I specialize in, right? So no problem. You're just
sorry, I can't see. I'm being blinded by the sun. That's better.
No, that's good. I didn't know what you were doing then. I was like, what would I say? Yeah, what was the question? Sorry. Yeah, so yeah, the burnout. I generally work with women with hormonal issues, mental health issues, and hypothalamic amenorrhea. So by nature, I'm going to see this woman a lot. But yeah, I think everyone is feeling a different level of fatigue because, you know, we're always online. There's no differentiation between our on time, you know, and our work time and our home time. And, you know, we're just, you know, we're being driven in some senses less by other people's expectations of us and more by our own. And in many ways, that's a recipe for disaster if you're a high functioning, high achieving, you know, individual. So yeah.
What are the most reasons that we're finding people are being burnt out?
So generally just doing too much of everything. So it might be that you have a high psychological stress demand on the body. You might be, you know, we're not in lockdown, but we've been through lockdown. So, I've got to get my exercise in. So you're ramping up your exercise. That's another stress on the body. You may find that, you know, you've got physiological things going on. So you're not sleeping so well. There's inflammation in the body for some reason. You're trying to diet or fasting or not fueling correctly. And all of these things are triggering more and more cortisol. You know, inflammation raises cortisol, fasting, low blood sugar raises cortisol, exercise raises cortisol, psychological stress raises cortisol. So, and I'm not just talking about cortisol, there are other hormones as well. So that, you know, we tend to focus on cortisol, but there are other glucocorticoids that are released from the adrenal glands, and even things like CRH, which is a hormone that kicks off the whole stress response, can be involved in dysregulating all sorts of things. You know, our cycle, for example, we can lose our periods.
How do we know when we've done too? Okay, how do we? Maybe we might know that we might have done too much. Period gone, for example. How do you catch it? But how do you know? What are the early signs of someone? Because, like, for example, I know today's been a long day and I'm tired, but that doesn't mean that after a good meal and a good night's sleep that I'm going to be burnt out tomorrow, right? Because I'm actually going to go to a gym class, like outdoor class, and then get my nails done.
That sounds amazing. It's going to make you feel so much better. You're so superficial.
Yeah. So do you know what I mean? In like it, but how I feel right now is burnt out. And if I didn't have that day like that tomorrow, and I was going to carry on another day like this, what are the symptoms that people are finding that you find that people are expecting, like, early on, that people could maybe catch?
Yeah, so that's a really, really good question. I think one thing I just want to tease out from what you just said there was that at the end of the workday, you should feel tired. Like that's your natural circadian rhythm where cortisol is supposed to come down, so you're less alert and you're supposed to start feeling fatigued. Over the course of the day, you're releasing more of a neurotransmitter called adenosine, which is supposed to relax you, calm you down. And we're supposed to be getting ready to go to sleep, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so, the issue is if you're not waking up in the morning with that get up and go, and you've got this all day fatigue or this tired all the time, you know, and then that is more symptomatic of burnout. But to answer your question, other symptoms of burnout, generally speaking, early warning signs are going to be things like just general fatigue, procrastinating a lot, really unable to just sit down and get stuff done, because you feel real loss and drop in motivation.
Yeah.
You might feel quite cynical, and a lot of these symptoms are quite similar and mimic depression. You're really quite disengaged with life. So it's very different to stress, which is which is more characterized by this hyper engagement in hyper stimulated kind of type of picture. Other symptoms as women are going to be irregular cycles, long cycles, and this is again linking into the other causes of hyper sort of adrenal activity or adrenal dysfunction, and high levels of stress. Things like brain fog, PMS. So if you do have a cycle, you might find that you get a lot of breast tenderness and stuff like that. And cortisol competes for progesterone receptors, for example. So high cortisol can actually lead to an estrogen dominant type picture, which can lead to some of these sort of mood issues around your cycle. So people don't often really think about stuff like that,
It could be that the reason why you are having such extreme PMS, whether that's like emotions or something, is the fact that you are stressed.
Yeah, and you're just not giving yourself enough recovery and not knowing how to manage that stress with with the right lifestyle and food factors and things like that. Poor sleep, just generally not able to sleep because the whole circadian rhythm can get a little bit out of sync, out of whack. Low sex drive, susceptibility to injury, immune suppression. Again, these are all really things that are linked to chronic stress type picture. Even things like digestive issues we've already really talked about. And again, that's because cortisol suppresses the parasympathetic nervous system, so our rest and digest mode. And then things like belly fat. I know this sounds silly, but these are things that are signs that you're producing a lot of cortisol, and you're not managing it so well, because we've got 4 times more cortisol receptors around our belly. And when we're producing a lot of cortisol as well, and that's actually going to stimulate our appetite. And if we're not then running from a tiger and using up all of that sugar in the bloodstream, it just gets deposited around the middle. So I know that sounds really silly to say, oh, belly fat is an early warning sign of burnout. No, that's not true. But it's a sign that you're under chronic stress,
Yeah.
and eventually if you're not,
Sorry, I was
yeah,
just you hear loads of, and maybe even from people like yourself, but you hear that actually when people stop doing HIIT workouts and they swap it for yoga or something and they stop dieting is when they lose weight, and that would be all down to the fact that they're stressing about the diet they're on. Or
yeah, definitely. It's definitely to do with those mechanisms, isn't it? Your body shape might change more favorably then, because you're not holding on to, your body is holding on for dear life to this kind of spare tire. And that is it's a direct result of also insulin and cortisol and inflammatory markers as well. But cortisol is a big factor in that.
interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, so many things.
Sense, right? And like when I get loads and loads of questions about the weight distribution thing, and I did do a post on it because my weight did distribute, but I know that's not necessarily the case for everyone. But it's one of the people's biggest fears. But would I be right in thinking that during when I had HA, obviously everything was all shut down and I was just like really under fueling. That's why I didn't have huge amounts of body fat. But when I went into recovery, I felt like I ballooned. Would that be the stress response in recovery, or?
Yeah, it's more of a sort of the body's very clever strategy actually to store more fat for you for the next time that you go into a starvation mode. So the body's very clever, you know, to sort of make sure that you've got a good energy supply. And we have a lot of, as I said, we've got more sort of, we've got more stress receptors, we've got more fat cells around our abdomen. It's an easily accessible form of fat, abdominal fat. So women, you know, certainly in the beginning, through eating disorder recovery and something like hypothalamic amenorrhea, where there's been this chronic energy deprivation, that's the mechanism really behind that, or more of an anecdotal one anyway.
That's good to know. That is good to know. And I think, like what we've just said, that if you are maybe someone that you're this whole weight gain, or you feel as if the weight gain is like all abdominal, is like focus on that stress. And
yeah, it really will redistribute. Have faith that it will redistribute, because as well, when you've got your estrogen back, you know, estrogen encourages more sort of, you may not want this, but more sort of bum and thigh and arm fat, and so just generally helps sort of rebalance the system. And I think, you know, if you are worried about that, certainly coming back to your stress levels is a big one, and kind of keep with the process and don't lose faith is what I would say, because we need this kind of abundant, constant, consistent supply of nutrition and nourishment for the body to relax. And when we sort of we put on a bit of weight and then we freak out and we restrict again for a little bit, then that's causing the issue. So just keep going and have that faith, and it will redistribute. The weight does redistribute.
Yeah, and also like mindset, right? Like, I don't know if you're spiritual, Holly, but like law of attraction, right? You get what you feel. Give me 2 seconds. I've just got.
I believe. No, I do believe that law of attraction stuff for sure. Yeah.
Oh, sorry everyone for my arse, and if you're watching this on YouTube.
It's a very nice bum.
So then, if someone has burnout, what can we do? So we've got a lot of those symptoms. What can we do? Chill out.
So much stuff. I mean, so I'm a registered nutritionist, so I'm going to come up with there's a lot of nutrition stuff I would do, lifestyle stuff as well. I think one of the most important things, I guess, before we get into some of that stuff is burnout. You know, it's this occupational phenomenon, so it's associated generally with our work life or our occupation, or our overall mission in life, our purpose in life. So identifying your why, or, you know, connecting with a cause, like you were just talking a little bit about spirituality, and I think that's really lovely and really important, because we've got to align some part of our life with a good, strong purpose that is aligned with our values, because otherwise, you know, we are on the road to burnout, because everything's going to be stressful for us. You know, you're more sensitive to you know, certain things in your life. So I think that finding that purpose is a very important part of it. Building in sort of stress management stuff throughout the day is important. I'll talk about that. I can talk a lot about the nutrition. Do you want me to talk about, because I know you said you wanted to talk about nutrition.
And one of the questions is, can certain foods prevent burnout? So
yes.
And are women?
Yeah,
there's loads, but yeah. So let's chat about the foods, because I know a lot of people are interested. There's obviously so much that goes around with amenorrhea, and about whether you should track or what you should eat and stuff. So yeah, if we can talk about like the nutrition side of things, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, so I guess before I go into specific foods, and yes, specific foods are important, you've got to get the basics of nutrition right, and that is your blood sugar balance. And I know that, you know, we see this all over social media and people talking about it, but it is actually a really important fundamental thing. And so the first principle of that is, you know, you've got to be eating the right amount of food that you need for your total daily workload, whether or not it's your mental load, your exercise, or general activity, non-dietary exercise, thermogenesis. So that's just, you know, the non-activity related
Yeah.
energy, production. So generally speaking, eating enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then building meals and snacks, in the right way. So the right composition of those meals is really important. And this is where, just eating loads of ice cream all day isn't very helpful. It's not helpful for anyone. It's not helpful for your stress response. It's not helpful for your hormones. So it's having, quality protein, fat, fiber, and, carbohydrate rich meal all together. So I don't know if, I'm sure you know what these things are. So we can talk about that. Fiber is still really important. I've got a lot of questions. I have a lot of people asking me, oh, should I not have fiber? We can talk a lot about that, but fiber is really important for mental health. So you don't have.
Why is so important for mental health?
Yeah, I mean, so fiber, research shows essentially on a fiber-free diet, the gut bacteria actually munch on the gut lining, and because fiber feeds our bacteria, right?
Yeah.
And if that happens, that can set up inflammation, intestinal hyperpermeability, and any inflammation in the gut we know can translate into neuroinflammation in the brain, and that's associated with mental health issues, anxiety, susceptibility to stress. So our gut health and our microbiome is really important. So none of this like no fiber in the diet. That's, yes, your energy intake needs to go up, your fats and I'm talking a little bit about HA here, but your fats and your proteins and your carbs are really important, those macronutrients. But let's not forget about fiber as well. It needs to be there, and it also slows down the release of glucose into the bloodstream, so your blood sugar is much more balanced. So really just building your meal with those 3 to 4 big things really is really important. I would avoid eating sort of refined carbs on their own for anyone still, because of blood sugar control, and and that's really important for preventing burnout, preventing all this sort of excess cortisol release in the day. Drinking enough and timing your food correctly. So
you've just
for most,
I think I've had one drink today.
So we need to stop this conversation, and you need to go and get yourself a pint of water right now, please. That's really bad.
When I say I've had one drink today, it is this size. It is like the size.
Oh, okay, well, that's like a litre.
Yeah. I mean, like, I normally drink about 3 or 4 of these a day. Hold up, how much is this? Yeah, it's.
I've actually got my little mini one here.
Yeah, it's 1,000 milliliters.
Like me and my little tiny little glass of water.
Oh my god, that literally, you're so sophisticated, and look at me with this mashed up bottle.
I do have one of those now, but
it's been everywhere with me, but it's so obnoxiously big that
this has actually got my magnesium in it as well.
Oh, you're so bougie. You are. You literally are you are your job.
I know. Yeah. Of course, I've got to. I've got to be my what's the word? Live my preach. Practice what I preach.
Yeah. Oh,
exactly. No, water is really important, definitely, and it can also, dehydration can contribute to fatigue as well. When we're dehydrated, blood volume goes down, everything slows down, we feel really fatigued, we can't get that blood flow to the brain. So yeah, drinking enough water is always important. And then finally, I guess with the sort of basics really is timing everything correctly, front loading your nutrition, getting, if you can, most of your calories in the daytime when cortisol is naturally high, because we don't want to, we don't want to have, a lot of us have 80%, or I used to, have 80% of my food at night. And that's not great for your stress response.
I find that with HA guys, that we would, it's like we were so scared, so scared that we're going to be hungry and run out of calories, that we would just not eat throughout the day and save it all for the evening. And that's been my biggest learning thing, of being like, well, I'd say I'll probably eat my biggest, if not I eat the same at lunch and dinner. But
I think that's exactly, and I was exactly the same. I ate minimally in the day, just because I felt like, and I got a little bit addicted to that cortisol, that cortisol release and that adrenaline and that like, oh yeah, I'm really alert and I'm really sharp and I can do all this really well. I was just totally kidding myself. But I am.
It's still
Yeah.
a bit of a bad habit of mine that I quite like. That, and my dad spoke.
Adrenaline.
My dad actually fasts. That I do think guys have a bit of an easier time, don't they, with their hormones and stuff. But my dad finds
Yeah,
skipping breakfast really helps him monitor his weight. But he says that he gets to that stage where he's like pinging, and I'm like, yeah, I think that's your cortisol.
Yeah, it is for sure. And it's just, if he's doing extreme fasting, he could be putting his body into a ketogenic state, which is where he's getting, he's releasing certain ketones for energy, which do make you feel really sharp. But no, I mean, there's nothing. Intermittent fasting has its place. It definitely suits male physiology. It may suit certain physiology in women at certain times of life. But I think for most women with an active hormone cycle or have experienced hypothalamic amenorrhea or regular cycles, it's not. It's not to be helped. Yeah, it's not to be.
Breakfast, and I'm like, hold up, I'm about to go into my second.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I don't have 3 breakfasts. So that's sort of like, I guess, the basics really with nutrition, and then I think there are a few things around, building on that, the importance of carbohydrates. I think I've spoken a little bit about this before, but especially in women who are prone to burnout or mental health issues, carbohydrates are really important. Yes, for energy intake, dietary fiber, micronutrients, but they're really important essentially for serotonin in the brain, because without carbohydrates, we don't get a sufficient insulin spike. And insulin helps us to take up certain amino acids from proteins. And I'm thinking specifically of tryptophan, which converts into serotonin. And serotonin is a really nice sort of happy hormone. It helps to regulate our stress response. So it regulates our stress response system, makes us feel happy, social, really, really important. And women, we produce about half of it, half the amount that men do in the brain, and we're less efficient at recycling it. So, women, this is one of the reasons why women are more susceptible to anxiety and depression, but you throw a low carb diet in there for women, and it's not great, and unfortunately most of the research out there is, over the last few years has promoted low carb diets and things like intermittent fasting. They're just not really working for female biochemistry, I think. And as I say, it's really important to pair your carbs with the proteins and fats, but carbs themselves are really important for our mental well-being, and certainly for burnout prevention. I think they would be really, really important. Yeah, really important. Yeah, I don't know, I could talk forever about food. So.
Like, can you tell I'm sat here like, yeah.
Magnesium is important. We could talk about magnesium. I think that's a good one.
I've noticed that magnesium helps you sleep at night. Is that a placebo?
No, I don't think so. Magnesium. So the research is getting stronger and stronger on magnesium. I think a lot of the medical community have been a little bit skeptical of it in the past, because we've got research that shows that magnesium is useful for anxiety, but we need better quality studies to sort of prove that theory. But we know that magnesium helps to reduce the activity of the HPA axis, the stress response system. It also upregulates GABA release, and GABA is a calming neurotransmitter in the brain, so that's probably why it's helpful for sleep. And it also reduces an excitatory neurotransmitter called NMDA. I can't remember what the full name for it is, but that's the sort of more kind of arousing, sort of stressy one. So it does all these things. And I really do think that if there was one supplement or one mineral that I would say that everyone could take pretty safely, long term, I can't really ethically say long term because we don't have the studies, but magnesium is just so important. And unfortunately soil levels of magnesium aren't as great as they used to be, just like with all other minerals. So it's found naturally in all green leafy stuff. Anywhere you find chlorophyll, which is a green pigment, you find magnesium because it's part of the same molecule. It's found in nuts, seeds, legumes, so loads of foods, whole grains. But again, are we meeting our needs and our requirements? And, you know, we're going to lose a lot of magnesium when we're stressed. We use it up. We lose it, we can urinate it out. So we can sweat it out as well. So active women, that's another big one.
Yeah.
Same goes for zinc.
I've got one. Did you just say zinc?
Zinc, yeah.
You just read my mind. That was coming out of my mouth.
I said we can sweat zinc out. Yeah, go for it.
I was literally about to say zinc, and you went, and I was like, oh my lord. So I've taken Barocas.
We literally haven't even exchanged any questions for this session. I just want to say.
So no, it's not a Barocca. It's just a vitamin C with zinc drink in the morning, and my nails feel so much better from having it. And I swear it's the zinc.
It could be both, actually. Yeah, it could be both. Yeah.
Does that mean I'm then deficient in it in my diet?
Yeah, deficient, insufficient, you know, maybe your stores aren't replete, so your body can't just quite, all of those, you know, vitamins and minerals work like these little kind of we call them cofactors. They're like they turn the cogs. You know, if you imagine there's like a little guy with a whole load of in the sort of I'm thinking in like the control room. They get everything to work properly. They're not like the macronutrients, like the carbohydrates and proteins, which are building blocks, but they make everything work properly. So yeah, if we don't have enough, then certain enzyme functions, all sorts of things that we need to make collagen and nails and things like that, we just can't do. Vitamin C is a big one for collagen production. So
could that be from the fact that I'm vegan / plant-based?
Possibly, because I mean, zinc is mostly found in seafood, in the most concentrated sources in seafood. But it's also found, you know, in quite a good level in things like pumpkin seeds, and then to a much smaller degree in all sorts of other plant foods. But I think, you know, if you're doing a lot of exercise, you're highly stressed, you know, zinc is used to regulate the stress system as well. It's another important mineral in the stress response, inflammation, hormones. I think zinc is responsible for the production, it sort of orchestrates the production and transport of a lot of our hormones. So it does a lot of stuff. And yeah, for sure, it could be that, you know, I think it's really great if you're a vegan that you're supplementing with zinc, actually.
Okay, cool. Because I actually feel the healthiest I've ever been. And obviously I tested it. Sorry, there's a magpie. When my dad went, I don't know if I've told you this story, but my dad went vegan, and I thought, oh God, if Dad can give it a go, I'll give it a go. And then within a couple of months, and guys, if you're listening to this, please do not take this as recommendation for you to go vegan. I literally ended up getting my period like the month later. And then I thought, okay, well, this is actually all right. Like, this is working for me. It was really encouraging me to eat carbohydrates because I was a chicken and broccoli kind of gal before.
It might have been something you were lacking in. Yeah, you weren't eating enough carbohydrates before.
But I have, and then I've just kind of stuck with it. But I have kind of wondered whether, like, if I, like, is this giving me everything that I should be? And I do supplement like B12, magnesium, vitamin D, and zinc when I remember. But I do sometimes wonder, like, are we meant to eat a little bit?
I mean, I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to pass my personal opinion about it, because it's I think it's really tricky, because I work with a lot of HAers who some of them are vegan, and we sometimes have to talk about it seriously, because I guess you've mentioned most of the critical things there. You know, the zinc, the vitamin D, B12. Iron is another one, but there are also things like vitamin A, which we find largely in plant foods, but in the beta carotene form. And interesting piece of statistic for you here is that 60% of Caucasians can't convert beta carotene into the active form of vitamin A, which we find in animal foods. And vitamin A is essential for endometrial health, so the growing of that endometrial lining, and ovulation and immune function and all sorts of things. So things like that. And then choline is another one we find mostly in animal foods, certain types of amino acids like taurine, tryptophan that I mentioned. You can get all of these things in plant foods. Some of them you can't. Taurine can only be found in animal foods, but they're really important for, again, mental health. Reduce, a lot of them can help reduce anxiety if you're low in them, if you're deficient in them, and hormonal health and building tissues in the body. Remember that receptors and hormones and neurotransmitters, these are all proteins in the body. They're all proteins. So we have to get these amino acids as the building blocks to make those. And most of the time, you know, it can be hard unless you are really, really on it with your veganism and you know exactly how to get all of these things in your diet daily. It's totally possible, I think, with a little bit of help with some additional supplements, I think, for some of the things you can't get from plants. But it's hard work. And I think one of the things we don't want with HA is hard work for the body. It's had enough hard work, thank you very much.
Yeah, that's often how I feel. It is often the thought of eating meat now, if I know it's meat, makes me gag a little bit. But I have had a regular, like, sorry, we're going completely off tangent of burnout, but I do
great.
when I just get a little bit tired or something like that, I do think, am I more tired than usual? Could this be helped with maybe a little bit of, I don't know. So right, we're going off tangent. Back to burnout. Sorry. No,
it's all relevant though, isn't it? It's all relevant.
Yeah. So we've noticed the symptoms, and we know that there's a few food things. How do we keep going back into it? Because obviously, like, sometimes it just happens.
Yeah. Coming back to, okay, so the basic other things I haven't mentioned with the diet, I'm not going to go into them because of time, but omega-3, again, really important, you know, vitamin D, B vitamins, the fiber, the prebiotics, the probiotics, all sorts of things related to the gut health, etc. But getting a really solid, nourishing diet, and this is from a functional medicine point of view. This isn't like, I'm not talking about you know, just getting enough calories in. I'm talking about getting all of those lovely nutrients so the body can work optimally is a fundamental prevention strategy, because we are what we absorb, we are what we take in from, we're literally made up of the food that we eat. So that's really important. Are we moving in the right way? I think that's something that we have to think about with burnout, as in the same way as relative energy deficiency and HA or overtraining, because you know, the research behind exercise and mental health only supports, you know, 150 minutes a week, which is about 30 minutes a day of moderate sort of to vigorous activity. That's not that much exercise. And beyond that, you know, we don't have evidence to support high volumes of high intense training on top of an already stressful life. So that's something to think about. But then again, there are a few nuances and benefits to exercise in burnout prevention that I think that, you know, in terms of help, you know, improving.
I feel like sometimes if you're stressed out from like work, for example, like a nice jog or like going for a walk or a class or something might actually be beneficial, right?
Yeah, I do think so. And so this is where we've got two camps, haven't we? We've got the general population, and then people who are kind of HA, pushing into sort of HA. For the general population, yes. And even for people with HA, if you're using that exercise in a sort of responsible way and a kind of mindful way and a loving way to your body, and you can actually bring a stress response to its kind of physiological conclusion and actually use it in a healthful way, without sort of damaging your stress response further, or damaging, if I can say that, you know, causing an imbalance in your cortisol. So exercise is really important. And then lifestyle stuff, I guess, with there's so much you can do, and it really is person to person, you know, dependent. Finding ways to connect with people, and, you know, which has really been difficult the last year, but hugging and getting that oxytocin from, you know, being around animals and nature and other humans, and being kind to other people has a really nice beneficial effect on us. And doing things like, you know, spending time in nature. There's lots of research to support that kind of thing. What else? Breathing techniques are really powerful. I was speaking to somebody else about this the other day who's a breath worker. I think she's just like specialist in this, but you know, deep breathing, and we can huh what's her name? Tash, Tom.
No.
Yeah, wholeheartedly Tash. This is an advert for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, featured in
Wholeheartedly Tash, actually. I do know her. I follow her.
Yeah, so we were chatting about this. She does some breath work with people, which is lovely. And you know, we forget how much that we can actually tap into our parasympathetic nervous system, and switch and turn down the sympathetic nervous system, which is the stress response, if we're breathing correctly, because we've got all these stress receptors up in our chest, and we can, you know, when we're breathing deeply into the belly, we can activate the vagus nerve. This is something I learned through teaching yoga, you know. And it's true, there's research on this stuff. I think it's great. So stuff like just breathing properly, you know, meditation, mindfulness, I've never been a massive fan of myself, because I found it difficult to recommend to people because I could never do it.
I struggle mornings because I get out of bed, and mornings are my favorite. The earlier I get up, the more I love myself, I swear. So I found a healthy balance at 5:45, and that feels like I'm like full in the edge of like, whoa, you're early. And like, I love the fact that I'm in an apartment, and I love the fact that I sit on my sofa and I'm like, I'm probably the only one up.
I love that feeling as well. I can't get up that early though. I can, but I don't choose to get up that early. I used to. But I love that feeling we're talking about.
And I am in bed by 8:30. So
yeah, that's amazing. No, that's great.
I read, but I have really got into sleep hypnosis / sleep meditation, and that is my time. And everyone laughs. My whole family laugh at me for getting into bed at 8:30. But I said I don't get into bed and sleep like what they might do at 10 o'clock. I get into bed at 8:30. I read. I do like a full sleep meditation, which requires you to be awake for 20 minutes. So I'm probably asleep by like 9:30. But like, that is my time. And if I have to compromise, if I have to compromise, it really irritates me.
Yeah, but that is
honestly, I'd be an awful wife.
Anyways, watch.
Honestly, I'd be an awful wife and mum. I always think this, like, I'm way too selfish to be a wife and a mum at this present stage. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean I can't go to the gym at this time? What do you mean I can't go to bed at 8:30?
I think it's really lovely, and it's so nice to hear. I actually had a client who used to do the same. She actually had a little baby, and she used to wake up at really, really early in the morning. Which we were chatting about, but she's the same as you, would go to bed at 8:30. There's nothing wrong with that. It's great. That's technically what we're supposed to do. When the sun goes down, we're supposed to go to bed. So
I am getting to the stage that I'm getting into bed, and it's like not even dark yet, and I'm like, is this weird, or is this a bit dramatic?
This is true burnout prevention, because you are really listening to your body and you're really giving it what it needs, and we don't do that often enough. You know, we've got to prioritize things like sleep more, all of us.
And I think that is maybe how I do manage it, is that I'm not someone that's going to sit on the sofa all day, even at a weekend. I'm not someone to chill out like that. I love when I'm awake. I am 99 miles an hour, but I will offset it by making sure I get the sleep in, and I think, and obviously fueling and stuff. So I think, maybe it is just about like play about with what you makes you feel good, and find ways to monitor it yourself. Because like my best mate Zoe, for example, loves to just sit and like watch Netflix for an afternoon or something, whereas I literally couldn't think of anything worse.
Yeah, and it's, you know, you've made such an important point there, is that we're all different, and what we find enjoyable, relaxing is totally different. I really think a really important thing you picked up on there is your kind of personal routine, is that you've got a little routine, and we all fall into them naturally. We're routine machines. We're prone to like routines as humans, and our brains respond negatively to uncertainty. So routine for so many reasons can be really helpful as a kind of stress and therefore burnout prevention strategy, is actually having healthy routines in place.
That's good to know. So next time everyone takes a piss out of me, I'm going to be like, excuse me, I'm doing something good for my brain.
Exactly. And I have a question for you, because this is an important point. This is an important point, I think, with burnout prevention, is how often do you genuinely get some tech-free time, Chloe? Off your phone. Because it's your job, right?
You know what? Yeah. Do you know what?
You probably don't. This isn't a criticism, by the way.
No. Because even when I do a sleep hypnosis, it's on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Are you wearing blue light blocking glasses?
no, but I do have the night mode on my phone.
You should also get some blue light blocking glasses, and then you'll be fine.
I don't even wear them. They're in that cupboard.
There you go. I guess.
God, I've just thought that, like, so my like evening routine is, I don't normally work this late. I normally finish at like 6, half 6. But yeah, I would literally then have some dinner, put on a bit of telly. I don't really watch telly. I don't even know why I have a TV. But I'll put it on just for someone in the background, and then I will read. But I read on Kindle, and then I put a YouTube sleep meditation on, and that goes on for like 3 hours, and I'm asleep, and then I wake up in the morning to a Lumi light, which I guess is better. But then, yeah, and then I don't go on my phone straight away. I journal first. But I do think, like, even I know Lumi light is like meant to, but I think, imagine if electricity goes in my life. I'm heavily reliant.
Well, I mean, it would honestly be the same for everyone. I don't actually think that's that bad at all, because most people are on their laptops or something. And I think that the fact that you journal and you go to bed early and you go to sleep and you sleep well, this is all great. This is all really good stuff. I think this is more for people who find technology and social media a form of stress. And I think that we don't realize that sometimes, actually, but it can be, because we can feel that way.
Find if I'm going through like a bit of a rust. So last week I was going through a bit of a situation, and I found that I would sit on my phone more to try to like maybe distract the emotions that was coming up. And like I text my best friend Zoe, is literally like, she's like a complete soul sister. She knows me better than I know, and she just said, I text her something about a girl that we know has lost a lot of weight, and I said, oh, I haven't seen her in ages, she's lost loads of weight, how's she done that? And Zoe just said, you need some time off social media. Like, you would never even comment, you would never. And she was like, time. And I was realized that I was probably getting into bed and then sitting on my phone for a little bit. And it's like, I don't even realize, in my head I was so innocently, maybe just, but because that was so out of character, Zoe noticed it straight away. And sometimes you don't notice that you're about to go down a rabbit hole, and that could and that was just like as a form of stress, right? Way to suppress the stress, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a really complex sort of area. There's a really interesting book actually called what's it called? It's called Notes on a Nervous Planet by James Haig. James Haig? Matt Haig.
Matt Haig, yeah.
That's an interesting one. Yeah, that's an interesting one about social media, but there's all sorts of other ones as well. But no, it's important. It's really, I didn't mean to sort of go down a rabbit hole on this, but it's a really important part of your job. You're really good at your job, so I don't want you to stress out about your job.
I also find, because my job is on social media and social media compares, I find today I had the biggest spout of imposter syndrome ever, because I'm looking at what accounts are growing, why is that account growing, why isn't that piece of engagement up? And I know in everyone's job you'll probably get some comparison, but I find that that's probably why I have to go to bed so early, and I have to manage the burnout, because my job is never off. There is never a time that social media switches off, and that is my job. So there's always more that I could do. There's always more engagement that I could do.
Yeah. But there is always, Chloe, there is always more you can do. There is more that a lot of us can do. And safeguarding that you time every day is so important, whether that's a journal, a walk, chat on the phone with your mum. I don't know, that might not be helpful for you. But, you know, whatever it is just having a little bit of time that is protected and that is ours, you know, and just, it is so sacred. It's got to be sacred. Coming back to that spirituality piece, you know, it doesn't have to be spiritual, but that time has to be really, really sacred, and we all need to build it in more. You know, and using it actively, you know, things like vagal tone release exercises or vagal tone exercises, you know, whether or not that's getting someone to make you laugh, watching something funny, you know, laughter is really great for the vagus nerve, and things like gargling and humming and singing and just, you know, these sorts of things are really, there's all sorts of little tricks and stuff you can use, but just generally speaking, you know, finding ways to connect with others, I think, is really important. You know,
I'm going to play my favourite playlist while sorting some dinner out now then. Holly, thank you so much for coming on again. I mean, you have answered, we have got through some of the questions, but I won't hold you for any longer. There was one about whether tracking was good or not, but we have spoken enough, so I'll let you go. Have a nice evening. If there are any questions, I might ping them over to you in like DM, and if you ever get 5 minutes, it would be great just to get your response, and I can share it on stories. But yeah,
yeah, of course.
I will leave all everywhere where people can find you down below. But you're Holly Dunn Nutrition, right?
I am, yeah. We'll be doing more on there soon. Great. I'll be back. Yeah, I am. Yeah, do give me a follow, or even just say, you know, send me a message, send me a DM and say hi. It's always nice to know people see me. But yeah.
Thank you so much, and I'll see you later.
Yeah, thanks, Chloe. Take care, and speak to you soon. Enjoy your dinner.
Thank you.